How you doing, everyone? It's Big Time Tommy, keeping it old school and real, right here in Brooklyn, New York. My friends are diving deep into the ins and outs of cannabis cultivation, showing you how the pioneers at Culta Cannabis are pushing the envelope in high-tech horticulture. Now sit back, enjoy the show, and always remember to keep it old school, baby. OS for life.
Look, we're in a greenhouse. Right behind us is an outdoor. Behind that is an indoor. So you guys are literally growing cannabis in like the 3 ways that are possible.
It just shows how resilient these plants are.
I thought, I know regulation. I know a regulated industry. I worked for Total Wine for 10 years. I had no idea what regulation meant. It does not hold a candle to cannabis.
Rain in my hair? Don't care. I'm in Cambridge, Maryland. We're visiting Culta, one of the premier craft growers in the state, where they're growing indoor, outdoor, and greenhouse, as you see behind me. Now, they are growing some of the most fire genetics in this entire state, with the Amnesia OG consistently hitting 38 to 40%. Let's go inside and meet the team, the CEO, and all the legacy people behind building this amazing, iconic brand. CannaCribs, let's get it poppin'. Allison, tell us how you became the CEO of Culta, because, you know, I mean, these organizations are getting quite large, and like, no one's been the CEO of a cannabis company for a long time.
I don't think that mine is a typical story, although I'm not sure there is a typical story when it comes to the CEO of a cannabis company. My education is in industrial engineering, and I spent 10 years in the alcohol industry working for Total Wine and More. And from there, I ran the Mid-Atlantic's largest window covering company. We sold that company, and I was looking for what I was going to do next. So I spoke to some guy I met on LinkedIn that was an investor about a different opportunity, sat in his backyard during COVID. And in the middle of the conversation, he stops and he looks at me and says, well, what would you think about consulting for a cannabis company? So my first visit here, I was in shock. I could not believe how huge this business was, how it was, like I said, a real business. It was the passion of the people that were working there that I had never seen a company that when you walked in, you could feel that. You can't explain it to somebody, you have to be here and feel it. The board came to me and asked me to come on board, and it wasn't a hard decision then. My biggest concern at that point was, would this team accept me, right? Would this team of really passionate people that knew a ton about cannabis accept a leader that had no experience in cannabis? Why do you bring in a CEO after significant growth that has no cannabis knowledge, but has the knowledge of running a business and efficiency? How do you do quality at scale? But it was really important to everyone involved that we didn't lose that culture of craft cannabis. That's who we are. Everyone will say quality never can suffer, right? You can say those words, but a lot of times the efficient way is not what's going to give you the best quality. And we will not give up on quality.
So Jay, we're out here in Culta in your outdoor operation. I mean, this is pretty expansive.
Yeah, we got 3 acres that we're sitting in the midst of right now, so a good amount of room to work with.
Yeah. What's your role here at Culta?
So I am the Senior Director of Operations, so I oversee production in the entire Cambridge facility. So all of cultivation, the lab, post-harvest, kind of in charge of making sure that all of that's running well. I moved out from Denver, Colorado, where I'd been doing this for 17 years before. Colorado, there was, I want to say, 300 to 400 cultivators that were licensed in producing. In Maryland at that time, there was only 15. To go from, a market where there's a lot of people doing work not very many of them doing really high quality work, to then come out to a state where it's limited licenses and where everybody has to perform at the highest level. It was a really big change.
When did Maryland go medical?
So 2017 was when facilities could actually start to grow. So that means that really the first harvests were being done in early of 2018.
As I understand it, these buildings were like defunct, you know, just empty, and they were like old, what was it, like fish canning facilities?
So the building right behind me here is actually the original Bumblebee Tuna canning factory.
Bumblebee Tuna.
Bumblebee Tuna.
Bumblebee Tuna.
Old Ace Ventura. This was the old Phillips seafood packing warehouse. They used to have 12,000 people working at it, you know, day to day up until really the 1970s. And then around that time, the canning industry moved out to Europe and, you know, kind of left Cambridge a little high and dry. It housed government cheese and butter for a little while. There was an illegal Korean eel factory going on. We've taken an area that there was literally nothing happening for years and years and years and transformed it.
Dude, I don't know if you saw that, but there's this like bee or something that flew right past my face.
I caught the corner of it.
Hit me. I was like, holy shit.
Just as Nate and Jay are reminiscing about the old Bumblebee Tuna days, we notice what appears to be some sort of apparition disguised as a small bee. Could it be a spirit left over from those old dark canning days? We may never know. Stick around till the end of the episode to find out.
Look, we're in a greenhouse. Right behind us is an outdoor. Behind that is an indoor. So you guys are literally growing cannabis in like the 3 ways that are possible, other than, you know, I don't know what the next one is, like aeroponically on the moon or something.
That's one of the things that you know, the growers, we pride ourselves on, that we are able to grow in almost every single environment there is. And even currently inside, we also have high pressure sodium lighting along with the LED lighting. So we're probably one of the few there that has the ability to put certain genetics under LED lights and certain genetics under high pressure sodium just to maximize their traits, you know, in each one.
Growing outside, and how do you guys manage these? They're only used in the summer, I'd imagine, not the winter?
Yeah, so, you know, with our autoflower crops, we are able to get 2 turns technically out of it, but, you know, Maryland pretty much is a one season growing environment. So the first year that we cultivated outside was 2019, and we just did 1 acre. And people that heard what we were doing thought we were absolutely insane, because, you know, people have been growing outside in Maryland for years and years and years with very little success. And so that initial year we decided, you know, we're gonna do this. It's gonna be a big chance that we're taking, but we're gonna probably freeze 90% of the field because that's gonna be extract quality, and hope for 10% to be flower quality. Well, that first year, expectations were blown out of the water with how well the environment was for the plants to grow, where we were really able to capitalize about 90% flower and 10% to the lab. The number 1 lessons we're learning is genetic selection. For outside, at least, is our number 1 help. We've had multiple tropical storms come through, and I think we've had 2 Category 1 hurricanes. You're at the mercy of Mother Nature. I think the worst event we've ever had, we lost maybe 30 plants out of 3,000. So, you know, you're at a 1% loss at that point over 3 acres of plants. So 2 years ago, it was, I think it was early September, that there was 6 straight days, you know, straight days of rain. Our initial reaction was to close the 1 acre that we had available to us to protect that acre from getting just consistently rained on for days and days and days. And what we found after doing that was the environment that it created inside of the Cravo, our crop protection system, it created a very, very elevated humidity zone, which just made it perfect for fungal, you know, things to grow. Where outside for 6 straight days, these full-term plants were getting rained on consistently. And after those 6 days, some of the strains under the crop protection had just completely gone down with fungal issues. Outside, we had basically 0 issues. I don't know if that has anything to do with Maryland in particular, or if there's just a bigger lesson to be learned that rain might not be as bad at that time, as long as your genetics are resilient and not susceptible to that issue. It just shows how resilient these plants are.
Dude, I got this like so dumb. I have this song stuck in my head now. It's like, let the rain fall down. I was like, Ever heard of the grow-off competition? It's a simple concept. It's a competition to maximize the cannabinoid and terpene content of a clone of the same mother plant given to all of the competitors. This year's winner in Michigan was Lyra Luxury Cannabis for the highest THC percentage at 31.76%, using their proprietary cultivation techniques and additives. One product they used as part of their recipe is Stash Blend, a new, unique cannabis-specific plant additive with a proprietary formula made to maximize your plant's oil production potential. Introduce your plants to Stash Blend. Find the link in the description below. And now, back to the show. So Tom, you're the director of cultivation for all of Culta, is that correct?
Correct. I'm in charge of every living plant here at the facility.
Got it. Dead plants or someone else, right?
Yep, those are for the trash.
Right on. No, but like, how did you get your start in the cannabis industry, man?
So I actually started growing in DC in 2016. After they passed the Initiative 71 to legalize cannabis in DC. So I took it upon myself to go to an event that I saw that Culta was holding. And I got to meet the, at that time, assistant head grower who was gonna be the head grower of the outdoor. He told me all about that they were gonna be starting an organic living soil farm. I was growing organic living soil at home in DC, kept following up with him, and a couple months later, I was moving out here to work for Culta.
Nice, okay. You guys have set yourselves up to have a facility, it seems like, where you can do phenotyping, test cultivars out, indoors, outdoors. You guys even started a tissue culture lab. So let's talk about all those things. Like, how many cultivars do you have at Culta, and how are new cultivars making their way into there as well?
So we have about 30 production strains indoor that are continuously being cloned and grown that we have moms of, and then we have about 100 genetics backed up in our tissue culture lab.
You're really crossing some of your own genetics. Let's talk about that and what that entails.
I took 5 of our top cultivars that I thought had a lot of potential as being the donors. So I reversed those. You spray them with silver thiosulfate, and then they will reverse into putting out male parts, but it'll be all feminized pollen. So you'll end up with feminized seeds. Did that to 5 cultivars last year, and then took that pollen and hit each pollen to about 10 different genetics that we have. Some were just, hey, these are 2 great strains, let's bring them together. And then there were other ones that I had a real focus on flavor and terpene profile, or taking something that's THC dominant and breeding it to something that's CBD dominant.
Are there a couple crosses that you could name where you're like, wow, we're growing this in R&D right now and these are looking really good?
The sativa lovers will definitely like what I'm calling Poonesia, is our Poochie Love crossed to our Amnesia OG, which are both very high testing sativa genetics. But then we've also got stuff that really surprised me, like I'm calling it Sunday Walker. It's our Dog Walker OG to Hot Mint Sunday. And the Dog Walker has a really old school gas to it. And then the Hot Mint Sunday is like a newer genetic that has a little bit of funk, but also has this really fruity back end.
Nice. And I noticed that you have flower rooms under HPS and you have double stacked LED flower rooms. Can you talk a little bit about the differences of when you might move, a cultivar into one of those rooms or the other, and what you see just from the output of those?
It's one of the things that I love most about working here at Culta is that we have full outdoor sun-grown in organic living soil. Inside we have hydro in both HPS single-tier rooms and these LED double-stacked rooms. The HPS rooms tend to bode well for any really tall growing, stretching genetics. Most of the time our sativas are grown in our HPS rooms. Double-stacked LEDs can do pretty much any genetics. There's some stuff that doesn't really like the LED light. We'll get upwards of 70 grams per square foot under these Fluence LEDs in the double stack.
So when you mean 70 grams per square foot, is that per tier or is it 35-35?
Per tier.
Per tier. So really you're getting 140 grams per square foot.
Yep.
You guys are one of the beta testers of a new product that our team launched on the cultivation R&D side, which is the bio-trellis, a trellis that acts and feels like plastic trellis, and it biodegrades in 3 to 5 years. So I see you guys actually have it here in the 3.5 inch size. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have only been using it for a couple months. I love it. I love that I talked with you guys about this 6 months ago and was just searching for a non-nylon string 3.5 inch hole trellis netting. Didn't really exist on the market. So I'm really happy that you guys have been making it, and all of our cultivators are loving it. It does have a nice little stretch to it also. It doesn't just break under a good amount of strength and pull. And I can just say that our plants have been way better trellised since putting this trellising net up. Just having another hole for them to understand they can put a branch through every hole, I'm loving it. And it really does help fill the canopy early on in flower, and then we can just let everything go crazy and get up into the second trellis net.
Yeah. Let's talk environmentals a little bit. I mean, you guys have a lot of square footage, cubic footage, I guess, to cool, you know, from like a temperature and a humidity standpoint. I mean, is that tough in this facility?
Yeah, we have single tier HPS, which has one type of HVAC, and then in double tiered LED environments like this, you get a lot of microclimates, so you have to have different HVAC strategies, different temperature set points. A lot of our rooms will need supplemental dehumidification, like the double tiered LED rooms, and then we use Quest dehumidifiers in our cure room to get us that really nice cure.
So Crystal, I understand you do a lot of the marketing aspects of Culta, which is honestly just such a significant brand in the Maryland market. What is your official role here?
I'm the marketing manager here in Culta, overseeing the marketing for the cultivation here in Cambridge and our retail locations in Maryland.
The first question I wanted to ask you is the name Culta. I was like, you know, like what exactly does it stand for?
The name Culta is like a marriage between culture and cultivation. Not only do we want to cultivate a good product, but also a good culture and community for cannabis users.
I know that you guys have been recognized for the product coming out of this building. I mean, like, what awards have you guys won recently?
Most recently, our Amnesia OG won Best Sativa in Maryland from 2 organizations here in the state of Maryland, Explore Maryland Cannabis and the MJ Connect. And then also we won Best Sativa in the state of Maryland from Leafly.
There's a lot of limitations in the Maryland market of what you can and cannot do. And from a marketing perspective, your job is kind of like, you know, you got one arm tied behind your back. Like, what exactly is going on?
Yeah, you definitely feel handcuffed from a marketing perspective. My previous experience in sports marketing, it's like the options were limitless. But here in cannabis, there's a lot of restrictions and regulations. And so it really forces you to think outside of the box. When we transitioned into adult use, I was pretty excited. I thought it would open the doors for like more things that we would be able to do, more audiences we would be able to reach, but actually I found it to be the opposite. Very restrictive. You have to make sure anything you're doing, marketing, the audience that's seeing it is 85% of it is 21 and older. It prevents us from being able to talk about the flower and educate the public about the benefits of cannabis. And we also can't talk about the effects.
Yeah, I mean, look, straight up, cannabis is still taboo. It's like, sometimes you probably wish you could just like put a video out there and get like hundreds of thousands of views.
I thought, I know regulation. I know a regulated industry. I worked for Total Wine for 10 years. I had no idea what regulation meant. It does not hold a candle to cannabis. Cannabis is by far the most complex and difficult industries to work in. Most of it is because of regulation at the state level, with state regulators who are doing the best they can with the knowledge they have, which is very limited. Like, you're taking people who have no experience with this plant, with this industry, with business, and having them write regulations. In Maryland, when the new legislators are voted in, the first thing they do is any freshman legislators, so their first year, they get on a bus and they travel around the state to different businesses that are in industries that have big issues that are on the table. And so since cannabis last year was potentially going to go adult use, they wanted to bring them to a cannabis company, and they brought them here to Culta. And there were 3 people on that freshman tour that said, I'm not going inside. They would not come inside this building. And so I said, why? Like, I respect your decision, but can you just tell me why you don't want to go inside? Well, I don't want to smell like it. Why? Why don't you want to smell like it? So going through those questions really show you like the stigma.
It's 2024. The DEA just said that they're probably going to move cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. They're just going through some formalities right now. It's looking optimistic. There's also the Safer Banking Act, which is going to maybe allow banks federally to, like, you know, take cannabis money and give you loans and things like that, which they can't do now. I kind of wanted to just ask someone in your position how that affects your business and like what your thoughts are and all these kind of moving pieces going on, since you mentioned politics being a big part of your job.
Need both of those things very, very badly. You know, we're the last industry that is cash only. And because of that, we are prime targets, and it's dangerous. We have to be able to take credit cards, which we can't right now, because of the safety issue with cash. The second thing is to make sure that our employees are not restricted from getting loans. From saying that their income comes from cannabis, a lot of times we'll deny them for a loan. We as businesses cannot get loans. We cannot get loans from any federal bank. It's very hard to get money, and all the money that we get is very expensive because those that are giving it to us know that that's our only choice. The second thing you talked about is rescheduling. So Schedule 1 is where cannabis sits right now. It means there's no medicinal value, it's highly addictive. And Schedule 3, which is where it's being proposed that cannabis moves to, is that there could be addiction to it, but there is medicinal value and you can do research on it. Or what I believe, which is it should be totally descheduled. Right now, as a Schedule 1 drug, we have to abide by what's called 280E regulation. It's an IRS code that means that you cannot deduct any expenses that aren't cost of goods sold. If you're a retailer and you sell for the day X amount of product that makes you $700 in profit, and you have to pay your employees. You have to pay your employees $400. The federal government says, great, well now you have $300 that you have to pay tax on. Because although you made profit of $700, we know you had to pay your employees. So if you're Schedule 1, you cannot deduct the payroll for your employees. So you made $700 profit, that's what you're paying taxes on. That differential can amount to up to 70% effective tax rate. Some retailers in the cannabis industry pay over 100% effective tax rate. That means that they are paying the government more money than they are actually bringing in.
In the world of cultivation, efficiency is everything. Introducing the updated V2 Trellis Slayer 9000, a game changer for your greenhouse or indoor operation. Forget hours of manual trellising. With its patented design, users cut down labor time of trellising by up to 80%, leaving more hands free for what truly matters, nurturing your plants. We've now updated the design to our V2 that costs 20% less, that accordions to fit through standard doorways and tight corners with ease. The V2 also has updated widths of 4 feet, 5 feet, or 6.5 feet wide, so you can get the perfect size to match your trellis width. The average commercial growing operation more than pays for the unit in labor savings in 3 to 6 months. The Trellis Slayer 9000, revolutionizing cultivation one pull at a time. Link in the description below. So this is kind of a cool scene that we've never done before, but we have the cultivation manager for Culta outside grow, and then the cultivation manager for the Culta inside grow. So I wanted to talk about some of the similarities and differences of what you guys do. You know, one big difference we can obviously see in the indoor facility versus the outdoor one is you guys have multiple tiers. I mean, you have 2 or 3 levels that you guys are growing in. And I mean, like, there's scaffolding behind us. Literally, while we were chatting, people were walking around the scaffolding like downtown Tokyo going on over there. Like, is it tough to manage?
Not as difficult as you'd think, probably, especially because we have things like the scaffolding that allow us to get up on the second level as if it was the ground floor. When we have so many different strains in a room, you can choose some strains really like up top and some really like being down low. Heat rises, so some like the extra heat that might be up there. Sometimes the irrigation, gravity is going to pull it down low, so the bottom typically gets a little bit more water no matter what you want to try and do.
So how many different flower rooms do you have in this indoor facility?
We have 6 total flower rooms.
Got it. Looks like you guys are using 2-gallon cocoa bags, right?
Yep, we've got these Floraflex quick fill bags. These are really nice. They're great mostly because we know that they come in inert and neutral, so whatever we put into the bags is what we want. But it's also great that they come in compact, so we can inflate them in-house rather than having a wet bag come in on a pallet and we've got to use them quickly so they don't go bad. But we can also keep a large amount stored on hand, so we know that we always have enough cocoa. We're not chasing our tail trying to make sure we have enough every time we have a fill. Especially everyone's seen the last few years, sometimes supply chains just don't run as smoothly as you want them to. So you might be waiting on an order or something. So it's nice to be able to have them in-house all the time, ready for us to go. So another benefit too that we have with these is that they're very consistent, that we know we're getting the same cocoa every time. We know they're going to be the same volume every time, which is very important for us to make sure our irrigation is feeding properly. So knowing that Floraflex comes in and it's going to be the same thing every batch is very important for our growth.
You guys are growing in cocoa and you're probably doing tons of feeds of, you know, basically super clean water with super dialed in nutrients, whereas Santi is you're doing in a totally organic living beds. Right. So why don't we even chat about like what the nutrient makeup is of the outdoor and how you monitor that and build it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a lot of soil testing periodically throughout the year. We have a soil consultant, he's our agronomist. And so based off of what he's seeing in the tests, we then amend to try and get to those thresholds. We more so feed our soil, which in turn feeds our plant, rather than always just relying on feeding the plant. The thing that we do outside of amending is leaf tissue testing, and that gives us a much more accurate depiction of what's actually in the plant rather than what's in the soil. Within nutrients, there's what's plant available and then what's in the soil. We're looking for what's plant available. The other thing that we use is a cover crop, and we use that cover crop in order to minimize erosion with the wind. It also locks in nutrients. And the other thing that the cover crop does is the cover crop takes in those nutrients, we break it back down into it, and then it's more so in a plant available formula that the plants can much easier take up.
Well, let's chat about keeping these plants healthy. So from IPM, which is Integrated Pest Management, what do you guys do here on the indoor facility?
So we have an IPM specialist whose main job is to go through and scout the facility for problems. So he's our main go-to for reporting back. But we also have beneficial bugs that we put out. So we've got predatory mites and grove beetles and pirate bugs. But we also have a bioinsecticide, biopesticide that we put out on the plants as well to help build an active colony so that diseases can't even colonize on the plant.
So for outside, we do a similar thing. We tend to use our beneficial insects while the plants are still inside. And then once the plants go outside, we tend to rely on sprays a little bit more. Yeah. We only use organic, and so because of that reason, relying heavily on beneficial insects, relying heavily on companion planting. Companion plant would be something that either attracts a beneficial insect or it might deter a non-beneficial insect. And so one of a good example of that is like marigolds. So marigolds attract parasitic wasps. The parasitic wasps are a huge help for us fighting those caterpillars in a natural way. Part of having an organic farm is working with nature, not against it. And so by adding different plants to our farm, we sort of start to stay further and further away from that monocrop of just having cannabis out there. And so we try and use things like sunflowers, petunias, marigolds, dill, basil, all those sorts of things to either attract or deter things we want or that we don't want.
So Brandon, this is your domain that we're in. What is your role here at Culta?
I'm the director of post-harvest operations. Everything from drying, binning, trim and QC, packaging, transportation, inventory control.
Yeah, that's a lot. Well, you're one of the first employees at Culta, is that correct?
That's accurate, yeah. I was one of the first 5 on site among our operations crew.
So why don't we start with like how you guys do your harvesting here and like what that looks like at Culta?
Sure. We cut everything at the base of the plant, whole plant hang for a period of 10 to 12 days throughout, overseeing the drying conditions, making sure we're at optimum temperature and humidity. All the plants are then branched down, binned, then hand bucked for our auto trim team to do the initial prep of the material. Everything is then hand trimmed and QC'd.
Let's just talk numbers for a second. Like when you did the outpour harvest, like how many pounds of weed are you taking down at once?
Just shy of 25 million grams wet. Dry converted, if we're talking total biomass, just north of the 6,000 pound mark.
6,000 pounds of smokable
Usable
flower.
material, yeah.
Damn, that is crazy. Well, obviously you guys have invested in, look man, a ton of automation and different things to get this place to be able to produce what it produces. Let's chat about that a little bit.
Yeah, we've come a long, long way. So we've made some investment in terms of top of the line auto trimmers, conveyors, sorters. The Paxium has opened a lot of doors for us. So this is our Paxium equipment, a multi-head weigher, down to our pre-check analyzer. These are our 2 rotary tables. So we load up all of our empty jars over here on our rotary tables. They come down the jar indexer and we set our recipe strain dependent, making minor adjustments there, and they come out this side, filled to be capped, labeled. We also have an additional system, our Swifty Mini, which accommodates all of our Tier 2 Mylar offerings, allows us to bag that much more effectively. We have seen from our hand packaging efforts an increase in production of 5-fold.
Okay, so you can do 5 times as many with the same amount of employees by using this.
Correct.
Got it. Cool, let's go have some fun.
Cool.
So Kayla, how long have you been working here at Culta?
I've been here for 4 years.
Nice, and what's your official title?
I am the post-processing supervisor.
Nice. Well, let's chat about what Culta is making on this side of the building. I mean, this is all the processing side. So you guys, I mean, look, we walked past rooms, I saw extraction machines, I see ovens, I see you guys making edibles. Let's talk about everything you guys make.
Yeah, so in this room, we basically cover over all of the different variety of product that we put out for concentrates. So that is batters, sugars, shatters, RSO, live resin carts. We also have edibles down the hall. That's kind of a newer department for us.
Kind of had a little bit of an interesting conversation earlier about the strains that work well for making extracts and the ones that don't work well. You know?
Right.
Let's talk about the ones that like are killing it for you guys.
So Poochie Love is always something that works well for us. It crashes out very quickly.
And by crashes out, you mean?
So the THCA will basically separate itself from the terpenes and start to produce the consistency that we want. The only thing we cannot do with Poochie is shatter. It just is too brittle, it's too dry. We also have Amnesia OG. It's a big one for us. It's very high in terpene percentages and cannabinoids. That one does really well in almost any fashion.
Awesome. Kayla, well, thank you for letting us come in and teaching us about what you have going on here.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
So Tom, you know, one of the things that we like to focus on at CannaCribs is the cannabis industry is evolving so quickly, and there's so many more people that are trying to find new ways to ingest cannabis or new ways to manufacture cannabis. And when we came to your facility, you guys are using this thing in this room. I walked into this room and there's this R2-D2 looking thing, right? And I was like, so what is that? And why don't you tell us a little bit about what this thing is?
Yeah, so this is a cart filling machine by Octave Clean Core. Really cool, as you said, innovative company in the cannabis space. They have really revolutionized the way that people look at filling carts. They go from a bottom up, not from a top down perspective. So the cartridges are already pre-capped at the mouthpiece and the base, and so that creates a lot of efficiency for our workers. They come in grids of 200, all packed together right out of the box. They come put into a jig onto this machine, and we can have one employee make about 1,200 in an hour versus where we used to have a couple employees doing about 1,700 a day. So massive efficiencies gained. When I did the ROI on this, it was pretty incredible. It was 14 days.
14 days for
14
buying
days.
this machine to when it pays for itself off, just due to the savings in labor.
Yep.
Wow. You guys are filling distillate, but also, let me see, you guys are doing live resin?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can do multiple types of, like viscosity of oils.
There's a two liter reservoir in here, and it has precise heating controls. So depending on the viscosity of your oil, so like live resins or rosins, you're gonna run it at a little bit lower temperature. Distillate, which is a thicker oil, you're gonna run it at a little bit higher temperature.
So Tom, I know Rick from Octave is a good partner of yours, and he's here while we're filming, so let's drag him in front of the camera.
All right,
Okay.
Sounds good.
So Rick, we've known each other for like over half a decade.
We have.
From the industry, and you're an operator, but now you're working with Octave. So how did that happen, and like why are you working for Octave?
Well, I was thrilled at the opportunity to work with these guys. Having been an operator in the industry, you're always looking for efficiencies. The name of the game in cannabis is do it better, faster, for less money. In looking at the Octave system, it was a home run.
It's important that we fill vapes quickly because I understand in a lot of markets it's a bottleneck just getting enough vapes made for the market, especially markets that are booming that just went adult use or recreational, kind of like Maryland.
Right, very true. And it's also hard to do that and maintain quality at the same time. So, the primary efficiency that Octave introduced was the closed system, where carts come pre-capped. So as you watch the machine run, even the way the carts come out of the packaging as they're delivered fit directly into the rack, right into the machine. It'll process in this machine 200, 100 at a shot on each rack, spit them out, cure them for a bit, flip them over, and they're ready to be packaged.
Nice. And you were saying that like when it fills these, it actually pierces almost like a membrane?
Correct, yeah. Right next to the mouthpiece or the air intake, there's a filling hole that has a self-healing silicone membrane, and a heated needle goes through that membrane, injects the oil into the cart, metered, and then as it pulls out, it sort of self-heals that silicone. It also fills disposables. We've got several shapes within the Clean Core system, ranging from 0.5 gram, 1 gram, up to 2 gram sizes, including stainless steel post and porcelain post.
You said that you guys have customers that are using this machine, and not only they're filling their own carts, but they're literally filling other brands' carts.
Correct.
Just because of the throughput.
Even Culta here, they found enough efficiency in the operation that they started co-packing for other brands in the market.
Got it. So other people are just, you're doing the old traditional methods. They were like, this isn't working, it's too expensive.
Too easy, too fast.
The Rolls Royce of vape carts.
There you go.
Rick, it's always a pleasure seeing you.
Likewise.
And I imagine I'll probably be seeing more of these
I
around
hope so.
during our travels.
You've got it, man.
Culta started as being an indoor company, and it took a minute for the outdoor to fully kind of equalize itself, I would say, with our indoor. And at this point now, outdoor and indoor are equally important to the success of Culta. Outdoor is, the energy that the outdoor fields brings just to the entire campus when it's when it's growing it's noticeable. You know, everybody that walks to work that day, when there's plants, giant plants outside that they can walk past, it's a noticeable difference in the entire vibe of the facility. There's just a little more pep in your step, and I think that really does have to do with the kind of the terpenes that are floating through the air, because there's just certain strains that everybody's just, you can't see, the smiles are endless. You know, everybody's just skipping, laughing.
Culta is craft cannabis. That's what we are, that's what we've always been, and that's what we will remain. We are fantastic outdoor growers. To be a great outdoor grower in places like California is one thing. To be a great outdoor grower in Maryland is a skill that is very hard to come by. So we are expanding right now on our outdoor grow. We're finally going to introduce solventless. So craft cannabis without a solventless line, I'm told time and time again by my team, is just crazy that it's taken us this long. We won't put anything out there that isn't top of the line.
So sometimes I want to just show people what it's like behind the scenes of a CannaCribs episode, because literally sometimes we just take over someone's office, and while they're working, we're just behind them filming a scene. Right, Ryan? Beautiful cameo. I wanted to get that on camera for Marco.
Man.
Oops.
Okay.
Am I allowed to like cuss? Sorry.
Yeah.
And picture that ball in the... Oh.